The MEC of Finance and Economic Development in Gauteng has delivered the 2024-25 financial audit outcome. According to the latest report, 22 Gauteng Provincial Government departments and entities received clean audit opinions for the financial year. Departments such as the Office of the Premier, Provincial Treasury, Community Safety and Roads, as well as Transport, are among those that achieved clean audits. Some of them have maintained this status for 5 consecutive years. At the same time, the report notes a 4.2 billion rand in new irregular expenditure. Several departments, including health and education, showed signs of regression, with issues related to compliance, internal controls and supplier payments. We're now joined by Jafta Mhlongo, Acting Deputy Director General for Financial Governance in the Gauteng Provincial Treasury, to discuss the 2024-25 audit outcomes and what it means for the province. Jafta, good afternoon. Thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. A clean audit simply means you were able to account for all the money that you've spent, and we can clearly see where it went, how it was spent, and that it was spent according to the rules and regulations that governs how that money is meant to be spent. But it doesn't necessarily mean that the money was spent on the right things necessarily. So there's still a disjunct between priorities, expenditure priorities versus what service delivering ought to look like. But let's focus for a minute quickly on the systems, the financial control systems that enable some of those departments and entities to maintain clean audits. What's going right in the governance of, say, transport that's not going right in the governance of health and education?
Thank you very much and good afternoon. Thank you for having us as a Provincial Treasury. Looking at how the systems of government are working, this is a confirmation from the Auditor General that we've got robust systems of financial governance in the province that resulted into these clean audits that we're having. Yes, you are correct. There is a huge improvement in the Department of Roads and Transport, having them attained the clean audit that they have attained this financial year. However, if you have to compare it with the Department of Health, they are having historical issues that we are dealing with as a province, together with Department of Health, for us to ensure that they also attain unqualified audit with no findings. So those issues are the matters that we need to be dealing with. If you look at the current report that came out from the AG, the number of issues identified in Department of Health are reducing, meaning that there are steps that have been taken by management, by executive, as well as us as Provincial Treasury, in order to assist the department to deal with matters that are identified during this area.
Talk us through that 4.2 billion in irregular expenditure spread across health and education. What's the issue there? On irregular expenditure, mainly, maybe let me explain the irregular expenditure. The irregular expenditure, mainly it means that the departments have not complied with the legislations when they are acquiring the services that they have acquired. So the services were rendered, but during that process, they didn't follow the right processes. Hence, it is regarded as irregular expenditure on those. So for these departments, mainly is on expenditure management, is when they are procuring in terms of the supplier management regulations that are there. So we have put in a But irregular expenditure also means the flouting of the PFMA. That's ultimately what it comes down to, which could potentially mean that some of that 4.2 billion that has been spent irregularly, that its expenditure can't entirely be accounted for, could have gone through and seeped into the crevices of patronage and corruption in the expenditure of the province. How much detail has been paid by the Provincial Treasury towards uncovering what has actually gone towards what should be considered unlawful expenditure?
Okay, thank you very much. Let me start by indicating that when you're talking about irregular expenditure, mainly you are talking about the processes that you need to follow as a department or as government for you to procure those services. So what we have done as a Provincial Treasury, we have put systems in place to ensure that we have pre-checks for us to ensure that we reduce the irregular expenditure that is incurred. But once the irregular expenditure has been incurred, there is a process that is followed. Your irregular expenditure framework for us to investigate those irregular expenditure that took place. Once they are investigated, then you can be able to take it to Provincial Treasury and look at the consequence management that have been implemented so that we can be able to reduce those balances. Yes, we don't want to see irregular expenditure happening in the department. Hence, the MEC have indicated that we are in a process of automating our supply chain management processes, being your tender processes, as well as your requests for quotations, to ensure that we deal with these matters proactively, other than us dealing with them after the event.
What are the penalties really for officials who spent money incorrectly? That is to say, not following the correct procedures and processes. Those procedures and processes are there to safeguard the integrity of the transaction. That is to say, to make sure that money isn't going to places where it shouldn't be going to and spent in ways that it shouldn't be. So the integrity of the transactions matter here. And if that is being undermined, surely there must be some sort of sanction or consequence met out to those who are responsible.
Yes, you are correct. The irregular expenditure framework is clear on how to deal with the matters. Matters need to be investigated. Once investigated, then the consequence management will follow, depending on what exactly has been uncovered during the investigation. So each and every irregular expenditure that you see, now we're talking about 4.2 billion that has been reported for this financial year. Investigations are going to be conducted on those. Once the investigations are conducted, then consequence management is going to follow. Before any step can be taken to condone those irregular expenditure, we need to make sure that the accounting officers implement the consequence management that is outlined in the report. And those investigations, most of the time, they're not conducted by those departments that have incurred those irregular expenditure. They will be conducted by people that are designated to do that, like your forensic audit, if it's required for them to be able to do that. Thank you.
Has the province been able to improve its contingent liabilities?
Yeah, our contingent liability have decreased. Looking at the previous financial year, so that area as well we have improved. Your contingent liability have went down. If you look at where they are coming from the previous financial years.
How much are we talking about here?
Pardon?
How much are we talking about here?
So in terms of the numbers on the contingent liability, we're talking about an amount that is close to a billion of the reduction on the contingent liabilities, and most of them that are coming in, they are disclosed in the financial statements by the departments when they look at what contingent liability have been incurred on an annual basis.
Yeah, well, we're going to have to leave it there. Jafta, thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it.